A very warm welcome to this workshop on the DAAD Scholarships, which is being organized by Project EduAccess in collaboration with Yes India Delhi Zone. This is going to be the outline for the session. The organizers, Project EduAccess, as well as Yes India, will be introduced very briefly, following which we will introduce you to your wonderful panelists, who you may or may not see on your screens at the moment, but don't worry, you'll see them very soon if you can't see them already. In terms of what to expect during this session, you will be given an overview of the DAAD scholarships and how they may help you fund your master's studies and doctoral studies. You will be taken through the application process and given a sense of the timeline, the selection process, any additional supporting document requirements like the APS certificate before you're given a sense of various resources, online resources that you can take a look at if you would like to learn more about the DAAD scholarships and specific programs that you can apply to. Following that, we will take questions from you. You will realize that at the moment, you're not in a position to unmute yourselves, which is fine. But once the Q&A session begins, all of you will be given the access permissions to unmute yourselves. So you're more than welcome to raise your hand and put your question to the speakers directly. But of course, if you're hesitating to do that, you're also more than welcome to drop your questions in the chat. Please note that this session is being recorded and will be made available on Project EduAccess's YouTube channel very soon. So if you do decide to unmute yourself and ask your questions, you will appear in the recording. As long as you're fine with that, you're more than welcome to unmute yourselves. Okay, on to the session then. To very, very quickly introduce Project EduAccess. I work at Project EduAccess, I'm Gayatri, and we are a nonprofit initiative that aims to improve inclusivity, particularly in higher education and leadership spaces for individuals whose access to these spaces is curtailed. So primarily, we work with individuals coming from marginalized communities in the Global South. We want to improve the participation of such people within the higher education system. Therefore, one of the key interventions that we have adopted in this direction is our graduate mentorship program, as a part of which we help applicants from marginalized communities with their applications to universities abroad. But apart from the mentorship program itself, we regularly organize informational sessions like the one that you're attending at the moment on various aspects of university and scholarship applications. Beyond this, we also organize quite a few capacity building and leadership skill development workshops, in addition to doing evidence-based advocacy. So welcome if this is the first time you're attending an EduAccess session, and we hope you'll keep attending more such sessions in the future. I'm now gonna hand over to Amina, who will quickly give you a sense of what it is that Yes India does. Amina, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Amina Anish, General Secretary of Yes India Delhi Zone. I'm honored to introduce Yes India, an NGO that is entirely student-driven and committed to the educational and career development of students across India, especially students coming from marginalized communities. Our organization, under the Delhi Zone, has been actively involved in several impactful projects. For example, our study abroad webinar series, as well as our scholarship webinar series, provide students with valuable information on pursuing educational opportunities abroad and practical guidance on navigating the scholarship application process. The leadership camp we conduct brings together students from various universities to develop essential skills like leadership and teamwork. Our mission is to provide the resource and opportunities necessary for students to reach their full potential. We believe that by investing in the growth and development of our students, we are helping to shape a better future for them tomorrow. So thank you so much for your participation today, and I very much look forward to the productive discussions that lie ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amina. And we at EduAccess are delighted that we are able to organize this workshop in collaboration with you. Excellent. Now's the time to meet your panelists. Today, we are joined by the wonderful Vishakha Choudhary and Shahid Farooq. Vishakha completed her LLM in international law at the Europa-Institute, University of Saarland, as a DAAD Masters in Law scholar. And Shahid is currently pursuing his MSc in space engineering at the Universtät Bremen under the DAAD International Programme. So we have also indicated some of the other languages apart from English that our speakers will be able to speak to you in. This session, of course, is going to be delivered entirely in English. However, if anything has not made sense to you, you're more than welcome to ask questions in other languages, particularly Hindi, Urdu, or Kashmiri. And our speakers will be more than happy to answer your questions in these languages and also hopefully translate them into English for others who are unable to follow these languages. Having said that, let me now hand over to Vishakha to kick things off.
Thanks, Gayatri. So we'll start with just a brief overview of what the DAAD is and what it does. A lot of you might already know about this, but for those who don't, the DAAD stands for the Deutsche Akademische, I'm not going to pronounce it. It's the German Academic Exchange Service. They are funded by private, they're funded federally by state and sorry, I think I broke off there. So they're funded federally by state, by foreign countries, and also by private organizations. And they are the largest funding organization in Germany and one of the largest, if not the largest, in the world. Primarily providing scholarships to students to study in Germany. They also provide scholarships for German students to study elsewhere, but that's irrelevant for us now. So yes, it's for studying and research in Germany. The scope of the scholarship that's offered by the DAAD is huge. So they cover scholarships for postgraduate studies, doctoral and postdoctoral studies. Interestingly, they also provide some scholarships for short-term research stays and summer programs in various universities and research institutions. And they have both general and specific programs, which we're going to talk about briefly as well. So for master's degrees, we primarily have two types of scholarships that are offered by the DAAD. One is they're more general scholarships, which may be just master's scholarships or masters in particular areas. They also have specific scholarships that are dedicated to certain kind of programs or to certain universities. And we'll talk about where you can find the details of all of this later. But for you to know, there are certain common things that that are applicable irrespective of whether you're applying for a general scholarship or a program/university specific one. The first is that you must have a qualifying bachelor's degree. Now, depending on what course you're choosing to pursue, there may be a requirement of how many minimum years you should have studied your bachelor's. There may also be requirements of what kind of grades you must have graduated with. Usually it's an upper third. And based on sort of the university also, this might change. The types of programs that are covered are typically, and a large majority of them are for 1 year's master's degrees or 2 years master's degrees. So you would study the full master's 1 or 2 year long in Germany. They also have some scholarships for you to do your master's in your home country, but do a part of that. So let's say 1 year out of a 2 year master's that you're finishing in your home country, you do that abroad. But those are a smaller category. A vast majority of them are to do a 1 or 2 years master's course in Germany. The programs will typically start in October, but sometimes the scholarship covers also a language course, even if your program is in English, and you may even ask to be sort of provided a language course just to help you understand a little bit German and integrate into German life a little easily. But typical benefits of the scholarship are, one is your tuition fee. Now, there may be some confusion here because German universities don't usually have tuition fees. But to the extent that they do, they are typically waived. So DAAD will not provide you the sum. They will, if you're admitted to a university as a scholar, often your tuition fee is waived if you have any. Other than that, you're given a monthly stipend, which is, I think right now it's about 930 euros or something like that. Your health insurance is covered. They give you a travel allowance for one flight to and from your home country. There is something called a study allowance. Just to explain, usually German universities will have something called a semester fee, which is not a tuition fee, it's more of an administrative charge. And that is something you pay twice a year for the 2 semesters. So they also give you money to cover that. And then in certain cases, they have rent subsidies. So that usually depends on if the city that you're studying in is too expensive. So it's something like Munich or Hamburg, where rents are higher and your monthly stipend may not be enough to help you live comfortably. You can apply for additional rent subsidy. They also have allowances for family members in some cases, some allowance for disability and chronic illnesses. And of course, like I mentioned, in many cases, they will fund a language course for between 2 to 6 months. It's a maximum of 6 months. It's not done always, and sometimes you may be able to request that you would like to study some German, even if your course is in English, it doesn't matter. On the prep language course, I think something that's not mentioned here is that they often also fund, if you want to take a German test, a language test, to certify your language skills, sometimes they will also be able to fund that. For the doctoral studies, we have pretty much the same scholarship benefits. Again, as mentioned, tuition fee is not very common in Germany at all, for PhDs especially, but in case your program has any, they will waive them. The same idea of that's applicable to study allowance, which is more like a semester fee that you pay to your university. They give a similar allowance here. It's called the research allowance. And then the rest of your scholarship benefits are the same for doctoral applicants. The requirements are slightly different, of course. You would need a first degree and a master's degree. And again, how much time you must have studied that for, or the minimum grades that you must have received in each of these degrees may vary. I see a question here that can be addressed. So a first degree means your bachelor's degree. So that would be your qualifying degree, and then master's degrees. There are very few programs that I know of that waive the requirement for a master's degree, but more often than not in Germany, it is required to have a master's degree to do a doctoral, to do any doctoral studies. So in the doctoral scholarships as well, you have both kinds of scholarships. You have general PhD scholarships, and then you have specific scholarships for specific programs or specific universities. I think what's also important to mention here is, so Germany has a lot of universities, some of which you might already know about. So for example, one of the places that I studied, the place that I studied was a university called the University of Saarland. But they also have non-university institutions where you can do your doctoral studies. So a lot of these Max Planck institutions that you might have heard of are institutions in Germany, which are not designated as universities. They're research institutions, but you're still allowed to do doctoral work there. So often the DAAD scholarship will cover both programs at university institution and these non-university research institutions. So I'm sorry, I just saw a question in the chat about a psychology program. Maybe this is helpful to clarify once again. So DAAD is not one scholarship, it's a whole set of scholarships. And they have a database where they maintain what these scholarships are. A lot of these scholarships are just, oh, these are scholarships for which a master's student is eligible. And then you might be able to go and see what all programs are covered in there and see if your choice of course or your choice of university would be eligible for funding under that program. They also have some specific programs. For example, for Indian applicants, they have programs in public policy, in development studies, I think in visual and performing arts, in architecture. So they also have these specific scholarships. Sometimes even within them, there are limitations on what university you might be eligible to apply for. But yeah, so DAAD is just the organization which offers a whole range of scholarships. What we have distilled here are just some general criteria to help you understand how these scholarships typically work. And for specific courses such as psychology, for example, it would be better if you go to the DAAD website and check. There is a very easily searchable database where you can select what level you want to study at and what your field is. So, for example, masters and then social sciences, and it will give you all the scholarships that are available for somebody of your nationality. Sorry. So coming back to this, a quick note on how PhDs in Germany work, and this is, I think, quite common in Europe in general. You have some universities that offer a dedicated PhD program, where you would apply to the program itself, along with a topic, with your project plan or your research proposal, and then you'd be selected from a group of applicants who all applied to that program. So those are called structured PhD programs. There is also a possibility to apply, and this will depend from institution to institution, to a professor directly requesting PhD supervision. So in that case, you would typically send your research proposal and your supporting documents directly to a professor at a German university, in case they are willing, able, and interested to supervise your project. They would give you their approval, and using that approval, you would then apply for a DAAD scholarship. So please check what kind of scholarships, whether the kind of scholarship you're applying for covers both these kind of PhDs or only a structured PhD program. Typically, they will cover both, but make sure you take a look at this. And the maximum period for which PhD scholarships are usually provided is for 4 years. Initially, you will be provided a scholarship for 1 year, and then based on whether you've been able to perform or complete certain requirements in that 1 year that your university has set and that the scholarship itself has set, your funding will be extended by a further 3 years. Under the PhD scholarship ambit, DAAD also offers some scholarships for short-term stays, so anywhere between 1 to 12 months for you to, for example, if you're a PhD student already studying in India, you can apply for a scholarship to go and do a short-term research stay at one of these universities for between 1 to 12 months. I think that's it. Sorry, just a quick note. I think the scholarship monthly stipend currently set by DAAD is around 1,300 euros for doctoral scholars. Right. So very quick note on the application process. And again, here I want to iterate that this is just a general overview. Each scholarship has its own application process and its own application requirements. So for all of or any of the programs or scholarships that you're interested in applying, our advice would be to go and look at the actual scholarship webpage to see what you need to do. These are just some general guidelines to perhaps familiarize you with the process. Now, German academic year is typically composed of 2 semesters, a winter semester that's between October and March, and a summer semester that's between April and September. Usually, admission processes in Germany have an intake only for the winter, so October. So if you apply now, you would be starting next October. Some may be flexible and also have a summer intake, especially if you're doing a short-term stay and not a full program. Like I mentioned, check the DAAD website. So they have a general DAAD website and a DAAD India website. They also have DAAD websites for Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. But DAAD India is responsible for India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. So scholars from any of these countries or applicants from any of these countries can usually find information on the DAAD India website as well. And the website will provide you all the information about specific scholarships, what are the eligibility criteria for the specific scholarships, what kind of particular process you need to follow for it, what kind of documents you want to submit, so on and so forth. Now, a quick point of note, there, depending on what scholarship you're applying for, one of two things may happen. Either getting the scholarship means that you're already admitted to the course that you're applying for, and this is usually true if you're applying for a program-specific scholarship. In the case of general scholarships, you're typically required to make the scholarship application and the admission application to the university separately. So please check if your scholarship application is going to double up as an admission application, or if you're required to make separate applications. So for example, in my case, because my scholarship was a dedicated Masters in Law scholarship, the scholarship was only available for 2 universities in Germany. I had indicated my choice of which university I wanted to get the scholarship for. So when I received it, I didn't have to make an additional admission application to the university. My selection to the scholarship meant I was automatically selected to the university. That is not always the case, especially for general scholarships. So please don't assume that your scholarship application is sufficient. Make sure you check if you also need to make an additional admission application to the university. Right. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the DAAD India webpage. They have a database that is searchable. Like I mentioned, you will be able to search it based on what stream of study you're applying for. So they have general categories of science, social science, so on, humanities. And you'll be able to search based on what level of studies you're applying for. So graduate, postgraduate, doctoral, postdoctoral, short-term stays, and so on. And from the result it yields, you can browse through and see which scholarships are applicable to you or which might be useful to you, and select what all you want to apply for. Just to give you an idea, for example, this is a scholarship for fine art, design, visual communication, and film. So that's a very specific scholarship. It's not available to everyone. It's a master's scholarship, and it requires, like I mentioned, a first university degree, so a bachelor's degree. On any such scholarship page, you will see an overview of who can apply, what you will be given as part of the scholarship, what are the eligibility criteria, the documents that you're required to submit, the procedure that you're required to follow, and we'll also have some links for, it'll also mention deadlines and then some links for people that you can contact if you need further information. I think maybe Shahid, if I can hand over to you now to talk about the International Student Program.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm audible? Yeah. So, earlier, Vishakha discussed about the DAAD International Scholarship, and now, as she clearly mentioned, that there is a difference between the DAAD International Student and DAAD International Scholarship. So now I am going to show you how you can choose your defined program for yourself. The websites will be given in the end. So here you can see I have randomly choose some variables for the program computer science in the website, where you can just go directly, select choose your program and the course type, whether you want to go for a bachelor's, master's, PhD, or postdoc. And you can also choose the stream, maybe it's arts, engineering, health, etc. And you can also choose the variable language. So I right now we are choosing only English, and then it will give you a dedicated page of all the universities that offer your program. And if you select any of the university, next slide, please. Yeah, and if you move to the if you choose any selected university, then you can see all this overview, course details, costs and funding, requirements, registration, and services stuff. So in everything, they define all the aspects of the admission from the university. So in the overview, they just say what is this degree about and what is the teaching language, is it a full-time course or it's a full part-time course, and the duration of the course as well as the deadlines where you can apply and the semester fees. So next, moving to the course details. In the course details, you will get the is the course along with the course is the internship necessary and the credit distributions of how many credits of your what are the different courses and what are the different credits for your course. And next is cost and funding, where you can see the what's your semester contribution fees, what's the living cost in the city, and what are the funding opportunities as I mean heavy jobs and the research jobs inside the university. And fourth, we go for the requirements and the registration. In this, they mention that what academic requirements are necessary for this course for the intake, and what's the language, if it's going to be entirely in English or if it's going to be entirely in German, or you need some German efficient levels as well. And the most importantly, the application deadlines are mentioned for the both summer as well as the winter intake. And the final one is the services, inside which you can check for the accommodation, I mean, student and work, the support, maybe the study buddy programs, as well as the part-time employment infos inside the university. Next slide. Yeah, and this was all about the DAAD International Student Program, where you won't get the monthly stipend of 934 euros as of now, but you have to make your own blocked amount in order to go for the visa and post. Like you have to apply for the university directly, not like as Vishakha mentioned that you get directly admission and you don't have to apply for the university. So in this portal, you have to apply to the university in the mentioned deadline. And now we are talking about the Deutschland Stipendium. So this is all about inter-university stipend that university gives at the university level once for a year. You get a mail yearly of what are the document checklists, what are the necessary information you need to apply, and the portal in the mail it's already mentioned that you need to go to the website and check the checklist, what documents you need to apply for this scholarship. So it's once in a year you get per month 300 euros of stipend, and it's granted for two semesters, and after a year you have to renew it once again. It's based on your academic records, your social commitment, and personal achievements. Moreover, whatever extracurricular activities you have to attach the different proofs such that they will look into your application properly. So it's your responsibility to write down whatever the achievements you had and orient them in a proper way such that you will not miss this opportunity for 1 year. Next. Yeah, over to Vishakha once again.
Thank you, Shahid. Yeah, maybe I can just very quickly add. So the Deutschland Stipendium that Shahid was just discussing about is not a DAAD scholarship technically. It's administered by a federal authority in Germany. The scholarship decisions are actually made by your university. So it is something that you can apply for once you've already been admitted to a German university. The reason that we are telling you about this is because in some cases it is possible to combine the Deutschland Stipendium with some other sources of funding, including possibly something that you've received from DAAD. So it is an additional source of money that you can possibly consider when you want to study in Germany. So yeah, just wanted to mention that very, very quickly. Some general things that I think will also cover some of the things that are being raised in the chat. While again, I want to caveat this that for every scholarship that you want to apply, you have to check the actual scholarship page, because all of them may have different requirements, including scholarships that are dedicated towards the same field may have different requirements. So please look at the scholarship page itself. But some general things that we have observed, we can certainly share with you. The first is that there is typically no age restriction. Some programs may have a requirement, for example, that so for example, one of the public policy scholarships that DAAD gives in India, it's called the Helmut Schmidt Scholarship, I think, has a requirement that there must be only a maximum of 6 years between your bachelor's degree and whenever you're going to start your master's. It's a master's scholarship. So that's a requirement that they have, that no more than 6 years should have elapsed from the time of your bachelor's degree to the time that you will commence your master's. But typically, we haven't seen age restrictions in DAAD scholarships. We've already covered the second point, which is that sometimes you may be required to make separate applications for admission to the university and for the scholarship itself. So please keep an eye out for that. Now, if any of you are past DAAD scholars, or if any of you are interested in having, let's say, a prolonged stay in Germany where you want to do a master's and a PhD consecutively, and you're hoping to get funding for both, it's important to know that there is usually a cooling off period. So for example, if I, as a master's scholar, want to apply for a PhD, I cannot apply for a PhD. There is usually a requirement of 15 months to 2 years, in which I am not eligible after getting my first scholarship for another scholarship. Sometimes they also have a requirement that in that cooling off period, you must return to your home country, but not always. Now, what is, however, very useful to note is DAAD has dedicated scholarships for past DAAD scholar holders. So it's a very good program to be part of in that sense, because they really look out for their past scholars and give higher consideration to people who had scholarships from DAAD previously. So in that sense, it's a good community to be part of. A lot of other scholarships, such as Chevening, for example, in the UK, have a requirement that after completing your scholarship period and your program, you have to return to the university and you're required to give a repatriation undertaking that you will return to your home country for at least a minimum period of 2 years or something like that. Typically, DAAD doesn't have that requirement. Of course, like we discussed, in case you're applying again for a DAAD scholarship, they may require that you show proof of the fact that after your first scholarship, you went back home and you're applying from your home again. Now, in case you're somebody who's still studying, let's say a bachelor's degree wanting to apply for a master's degree, or somebody studying for a master's wanting to apply for a PhD, there is usually no requirement of work experience. Again, that may vary from course to course, but typically work experience requirements are not very common. In case of doctoral studies also, it's not necessary to show prior research. Sorry, that's my cat. To show prior research experience. But what they will require is that your degree be complete before you're going to start the scholarship, or before you're going to start your master's or your doctoral program. So you can apply while you're still studying, provided that you're going to finish before your program starts. And finally, they do typically ask for language proficiency. So for example, if any of you know German and are applying for a German program, which is also possible, they will ask for proof of German efficiency. Most of the scholarships, however, cover usually English programs, in which case they will ask for proof of English proficiency. They will accept the usual tests of TOEFL and IELTS that you may know of. The requirement of minimum score is not actually as high as you will find in, for example, the US or the UK, because it's Germany. So they are a little more understanding that English might not be anybody's first language. But yeah. And the last thing is that in case your program has some elements that are in German, the scholarship will often help you out with a language proficiency course, in which case you will then provide the proof of language proficiency in German after you've completed the course that has been given to you as part of the scholarship. So application documents. We have some standard things that we've seen across scholarship programs. There may be something less or more required from these documents than what's mentioned here, depending on the program, but usually there'll be an application form. There is no standard DAAD application form. It's based on scholarship to scholarship. There will be typically a requirement to submit a motivation letter, anywhere between 1 to 3 pages. This is very similar to the requirement to submit a motivation letter for any other college or scholarship that you're applying to. You have to explain why you want to do the program, what is your academic and professional and personal interest in the scholarship that you're applying for, and the program that you want to use the scholarship to attend. It is often very nice to also explain that you want to study in Germany and why you want to study in Germany, because this is a program that is essentially aimed at fostering interest in Germany. So that's really an essential part of your motivation, has to be to explain why Germany. And of course, if it's a scholarship that's, dedicated to certain programs or certain fields, or has a certain kind of background, you should explain why you're interested in the scholarship itself. So for example, there are some leadership scholarships, scholarship programs that they have, where there is a lot of practical experience and exposure that you're also given as part of the benefits that you receive through the scholarship. And you should be able to explain in that case, what is your interest in a scholarship of this kind, or the exposure that it will give you. So yes, please make sure that you look at the application and the kind of scholarship you're applying for, and cover all of these aspects in your motivation letter. Now, sometimes the motivation letter may be something that you have to attach separately as a consolidated letter, in a Word document or a PDF that you have to upload. Sometimes it can be part of the application form, either as a single question or a number of questions that basically address the various aspects that you would typically write in a motivation letter. So you can see one of both things. For example, in my case, when I was making my application form itself had different fields where I had to write 250 words or 500-word answers for why do I want this scholarship? Why do I want to study in Germany? Why do I want to do a master's in law? Why do I want to study the subjects that I want to study, and so on and so forth. Now, letters of recommendation, again, a very standard feature across international applications. It will usually be required for you to submit anywhere between 1 to 3 letters of recommendation from past supervisors, from professional supervisors, or academic supervisors, former teachers or professors, something like that. Usually they do not accept personal references, so some character references by someone who can attest to your personality. They typically want either academic or professional reference. Depending on the scholarship that you're applying for, it might also be possible that they insist on a reference from a professional, so past internship supervisor or work supervisor or whatever. So please also make sure if there are any requirements of that kind. And how the reference is typically to be submitted is either through an online portal, or, for example, in my case, a referee had to send a sealed letter to DAAD directly. Right. In addition to this, you will also be required to submit your transcripts, and which is basically a consolidated mark sheet from your previous degrees, and your degree itself. If you're not finishing your degree, if you haven't finished your degree yet, of course, that wouldn't apply to you. Or if you haven't received your degree yet, maybe you have a provisional certificate that you will have to attach. What is very essential is that whatever your university's grading system is should be clearly explained on the mark sheet for them to evaluate whether you meet their minimum academic conditions. And finally, you will have to give a CV. Sometimes there will be format requirements. So one popular format in the EU is the Europass format. Sometimes you can submit it in whatever format you want. Typically, it will require you to give it in reverse chronological order. So from the latest to the earliest of your academic and professional experience. And then finally, some degrees may require that if you're mentioning, especially if you're mentioning on your CV, any kind of past work experience or research experience and so on, that you give proof that you actually have this experience, and then proof of your language skills, depending on your course. So yeah, this is one of the scholarship programs that are available for scholars in India and South Asia generally. I think it's called the Development Related Postgraduate Course Scholarship. And this is a sample checklist of what you will need. Sometimes they will also ask you to fill the checklist and sign it and send it with your application documents. So please also see if that's required when you make your application. But like you can see here, this requires the application form, the letter of motivation, a CV in the Europass format, your university degrees, your full transcripts, any professional experience. You will need to give a work certificate, letter of recommendation from a current employer, and proof of skills. Sorry, very quickly before we start on this or move forward, in case your scholarship doesn't require work experience and you can't give a letter of recommendation from a current employer because you don't have any, or for example, if you're still a student and you haven't, finished studying yet, there are exceptions usually made that in that case you will be able to provide a recommendation letter from a university professor or something like that. But in case you don't see that exception clearly on DAAD's website or on the scholarships website, just contact them and confirm. They are typically quite helpful. They will respond quickly. But yes, before making any assumptions based on what you see here or what you see in other scholarship, scholarship programs of the DAAD, for your specific scholarship, if such, flexibilities exist or not, you should ideally confirm them. Yeah. And yeah, like I said, for this particular program, when you go to the scholarship webpage, you'll be able to see things like the application requirements, application procedures. So in this case, for this particular scholarship, you're required to have 2 years of professional experience, which is why the only letter of recommendation that they accept is from a current employer. And again, in the eligibility criteria of this scholarship is also quite clear about having 2 years of relevant professional experience. So, for example, in the field of development related work. Another thing to note, sorry, if we can just go back. Some scholarships also have a requirement that irrespective of whether you've been previously a DAAD scholar or not, you must not have been in Germany for about a year to 15 months before your scholarship starts. And the idea is they want to give opportunities to new people, as many people and as different kind of people as possible. This is the same reason they have the cooling off period between 2 DAAD scholarships. So the logic is the same. If you're somebody who has been resident in Germany, even if you're not on a DAAD scholarships, there are a number of scholarships that you might not be able to be applied for. So please keep an eye out for that as well. Right. Now, this is a very general deadline. There are scholarships whose deadlines close as early as July. There are scholarships whose application deadlines may run into January. So this is very general. Please check your specific scholarship programs to see what the actual deadline is. Typically, what we've seen is a deadline of between October to December. In case you have interviews, which is not always done, but often yes. Interviews are usually held between January to February. You'll hear back sometime around March or April as to whether you've been selected, and then you'll be given a short period of time within which you have to communicate whether you'd like to accept the scholarship or not. And as mentioned, the typical intake would be in the winter semester in Germany, which starts in October. Right. So as we've been, emphasizing all this time, every scholarship that the DAAD offers is unique. So anything that you see on one scholarship's web page or anything that you read or hear about one scholarship is not necessarily true for every scholarship that DAAD offers. You may be eligible for multiple of them. Each of them might require different things from you. So please check the database thoroughly, and please check every scholarship's page carefully to see what kind of scholarship it is, what the application criteria, what the selection criteria are. And yeah, please make sure that you tailor your application as much as possible to the specific scholarship, because DAAD often gets scholars who apply for multiple scholarships. And one of the things that they do consider is how much effort that an applicant has put in to tailor their application to that particular scholarship. So it's really important that you don't make a general application saying, I want to study in Germany and I want a scholarship, but that you carefully consider the requirements of each particular scholarship. This is, for example, the Helmut Schmidt program that I was talking about. I think I believe this one closes early, so I think this might already have the deadline for this might have already passed. But this is a very specific program for public policy and governance related courses. There are usually 7 or 8 universities that are a part of this, and the idea is that it is a practice oriented course, and it's something that it's a program that really values people with leadership skills or leadership potential. So it has very dedicated academic selection criteria, which you can see here, which are tailored to the kind of people that they think would fit the program and the scholarship best. Now, this is just one example. Usually the general scholarships that we were talking about, which are applicable to, let's say all kinds of PhD programs or all kinds of master's courses, they will not have these kind of strict criteria. It's usually in the program specific or the university specific scholarships that you'll find criteria like this, but just keep an eye out for them anyway. Right. I think Shahid can tell you about the APS certificate. Shahid, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Vishakha. So APS is the new certificate that has been issued by the German embassy based in Delhi. So what happened is because of some fraud and forging, so people used to duplicate their certificates, and the later on they used to say that we got scholarship and everything stuff. So what the embassy did, they introduced a portal where you can apply and give all the necessary informations where you have done your graduation, where you have done your class 12 PUC, and where you have done your class 10, and all the information along with the representatives to whom they can mail and get your information verified. So it's a part of German embassy in India that certificates that the students their degree is validated by the German embassy. So after this, this is a prerequisite for the visa. So without this, if you have admission, you will not be able to fill a slot for your visa. So once I would suggest to everybody, once you have decided that you are planning to apply for this admission in Germany on DAAD scholarship, so it's the best thing that you apply for this scholarship, because right now the universities are asking it. Some of the universities, some very very less, they are asking this APS certificate right at the time of the admission while you are applying for it. So you need it. So later on, it will not be delayed for you to join the semester. So it's best that you apply it on time with all the necessary information. The thing is, if you gave your information wrong and they will be not able to verify your documents, then it's gonna take more time for you to evaluate the certificate. So I would suggest to, before submitting the information and sending them the documents, so it's best that you cross-check your information and do the what's needed from your side. Moreover, there was one thing that I would add, that the Deutsche Stipendium is not a scholarship while you are in India. It's only when you get admission in the university while you are a student of the German university, then only you can apply for the Deutsche Stipendium. And moreover, a good suggestion would be that whenever you are applying, the university is expecting that you have tailored the best of your application and you have completed it in all possible manners, whatever is expected from you. Because if there is something missing, they will not be lenient, because there are the students throughout the world are applying for this program. So it's, I would suggest that you mainly focus on your motivation letter, and whatever information is asked that is necessary for this scholarship, you give it to them. And if there is anything that you are not able to understand, there will be always the email or the phone number given for the international office, that you can contact them, that there is something here and I don't have this document. What document can I give? So it is there on the portal. Please check such that you will not able to miss any of these things. And if you have decided to come to Germany, so I guess the best suggestion would be to please take some course from anywhere. There are so many online portals where you can check and you can learn a bit of German, because the thing is, once you'll be here, you need to talk to the shop. Like whatever, like you go out, here will be Germans here and there. So it's better that you at least learn some level of German, because moreover, that will be plus point for your application as well. Because if your course is completely in English, and there are lots of people who have applied for it, but you stand out because you have some level of German proficiency. So I would suggest that it plays a very important role in your application process. And a plus point is that experience is not needed, but sometimes when you are lagging in the your CGPA is a bit less, but this the experience that plays a plus point. So it mitigates your things, and then there's a good chance that you might get admission. So if you don't have any experience, that's not also. For the masters, there is no requirement of any work experience. But if you have less CGPA, then yeah, that's a plus point. And yeah, whatever you have done, your achievements, write them properly, tailor your application, and expect the good. Next. Yeah, so these are all the resources. We will put down them in chat, and then you can look out for these scholarships, whatever the whatever the application you are applying for. So yeah, moreover, I would say, let me make it once again clear that the things I discussed are for DAAD International Student Program. And yeah, that in that you have to cover up some blocked amount on your own. And that's it. I will give it over to Gayatri for the closing.
Perfect. Thank you so much, both of you, for patiently taking us through all of that. A lot of information to deal with. So just a few things before we turn over to the Q&A part of this session. Those of you who have questions, please feel free to raise your hands. But like I said right at the beginning, if you unmute yourself and talk in this session, because it's being recorded on active speaker mode, you will appear in the video, which will be made public on YouTube. So as long as you're okay with it, please feel free to raise your hands and unmute yourself. But of course, wait until your name is called, and then you can unmute yourself and ask your question. For those of you who have dropped your questions in the chat, I will, of course, be more than happy to read those questions out. So please keep the questions coming. However, a disclaimer to both those who are raising their hands and those who are dropping questions in the chat: please do not use this opportunity to ask general questions like, what is an LOR? What is a research proposal? Project EduAccess has organized multiple sessions, multiple workshops, which will give you all this information that you need. You can access all this again on our YouTube channel. What I would encourage you to do is use this time to get more useful information about the DAAD scholarships and maybe what it means to study in a country like Germany. Are there any requirements that are specific to German universities that are not specifically available in other countries, for example? Those are the types of questions that I would invite you to ask. Please, please don't use this opportunity just to ask any general questions that you have. Okay, having said all of that, I do want to get through some of the questions that came in the chat before I turn to those raised hands. Are there any grade cutoffs or grade requirements for DAAD scholarships?
Yeah, I'll take it. So there is no cutoff for the admission in Germany, but since the thing is, there are people that are applying throughout the world, and they have a limited intake. So it's first the best thing is, if you have good grades and you have tailored the application in a proper manner, then yeah. Moreover, there is no such thing called like I have less grades, as I already mentioned. If you have, for example, if there is a guy who has good grades but he doesn't have any work experience, and there is a guy who has less grades but he has work experience and other co-curricular activities and stuff, and the internships and things, so they have equal weightage in the admission, in getting the admission. So you should overall check all the things properly, whatever is asked from them. And yeah, there is no such thing called as a grade for the entry.
Just to add, some very specific scholarships, which are highly competitive, or they are so prestigious that even the DAAD considers those scholarships to be, let's say, the cream of the cream scholarships. There you might see some requirements of being in the upper third. And what that usually means is top 33% of your class. And that's the minimum. They will still select people with the best credentials. And it doesn't mean that just because you were in the top 33% of your class, that means you have a good shot. But sometimes for some very prestigious scholarships, that the DAAD itself regards as quite valuable, they will set some ceilings. But as Shahid was saying, that's not common at all. There isn't usually a requirement to have a minimum grade for either the scholarship or the program.
Yeah, the universities are T9. They ask for like a T9, the technical universities, top universities of Germany. Yeah, next.
Perfect. Are part-time PhDs covered by DAAD scholarships? Are part-time PhDs even available in German universities? Any idea, either of you?
So German universities typically, the idea of a part-time PhD in the way that it exists in, for example, the UK is not common at all. So you can't really do a PhD, at least not on a scholarship, just to be clear. So some universities will give you the option of doing the PhD remotely, where you only have to go for a couple of weeks or months in a year to meet your supervisor, but you can continue working in like your home country, for example. What is usually not permitted is to do your PhD while you're working elsewhere in Germany. That's very rare. What you can do is study in Germany, do a full-time PhD, but spend part of your PhD working at the university as a researcher or as a lecturer or as a teaching assistant or in whatever other capacity. So that's possible. You would still be considered a full-time PhD student with just part of your PhD being these teaching or research responsibilities that you would have at the university. But I don't know, Shahid, I personally don't know of a concept of a scholarship for
Yeah.
part-time PhD. Scholarships are usually given only for full-time PhDs.
Yes. Moreover, in Germany, the PhD is considered as full-time job. So yeah, you are paid according to the as a full-timer.
Perfect. Some more general questions, and then we can turn to the raised hands. Is there an English language test requirement for DAAD scholarships? And secondly, do you need an offer in hand before you can apply for a DAAD scholarship? I know we cover these in bits and pieces, but maybe we have some people who have joined late.
Sure. So for English, if your course is in English, then usually, yes, you will have a requirement to submit an English language test certificate. That can be TOEFL or IELTS. Make sure you check if they require a specific one. Usually they will accept both. And as far as courses that are not entirely in English are concerned, or if there are elements of them or the entire course is in German, you will also possibly need a German proficiency certificate, or at least that you've completed, if you've not taken a test, at least that you've completed a course indicating a bare minimum proficiency in German. So both are possible. It entirely depends on what language your course is in. And what was the second question? Sorry, I forgot.
Do you need an offer letter in hand before
Right.
you apply for the
So
scholarship?
most DAAD scholarships will require you to apply for the scholarship before you apply for the university. That's also because usually the scholarship deadlines are much before the university deadlines. University deadlines are not as early in Germany as they are, for example, in the US or the UK. So yes, it's more likely than not that you will apply for the scholarship before and then apply to the university using the scholarship that you get.
Yeah,
Sorry, just a very quick clarification for remember we discussed that there are two types of programs for PhDs. There are structured PhD programs and there are individual programs where you don't apply to the university, you apply to a particular professor, asking them or requesting them to supervise your PhD. In that case, yes, you would need an approval from the professor and the university beforehand, saying, yes, I have accepted this person to come to Germany, to come to my institute and do their PhD with me. And then you would need that letter or that certificate, whatever, to be able to apply for the scholarship if it's a not structured but an individual PhD program.
yeah. Plus, I would like to add a point that sometimes, as we mentioned, that you need to go to the a requirement list on that portal, and you can check whether sometimes they might like if your bachelor's is already in English, then you don't need to give IELTS as well. As it varies from university to university, because if they ask for no, it's called MOI, medium of instruction, that you can get from your university, and you don't need to write for the IELTS as well as TOEFL. But let me make it clear that then even after that, you have embassy requirement for German, that you need at least 5.5 IELTS score. So I guess then it answers the question that you need to write IELTS anyway. So yeah, over to the next question.
Wow, that's actually terrible. I think with UK universities, if the university says your English language requirement has been met, that's usually enough for the visa side. So,
Yeah,
but
but it's clearly mentioned in the visa checklist that you should have IELTS.
oof. Okay, amazing. Great. Let's turn to some of those raised hands. Ujjwala, you have the floor. You
Hi.
should be perfect.
Shall I just put my video on? Do I need to do that?
Yeah, it's up to you. If you want to, you can.
It's fine. I think it's fine. So I'll just quickly ask. This would be my second master's if I apply to DAAD. So unlike Schevening and Erasmus, will DAAD still accept applications for second masters?
I can take this one. So yes, as far as I know, generally there are no restrictions on applying for second masters, although again, as always, I would reiterate that check the actual scholarship. However, from what I know from my experience with the scholarship and others who applied for DAAD for the second time, for their second masters, you will have to explain very clearly in your application, scholarship application, I mean, why you want to do a second master's, especially if your second master's is in the same field, because the purpose of the scholarship program as such is largely to support students from developing country backgrounds, and they want to spread out that scholarship as much as possible. So if you're somebody who's already had access to quality higher education, they might be less inclined to give you that scholarship as opposed to somebody who hasn't had that opportunity, let's say. So yes, in case you have a master's, and especially if, even irrespective of what field it is in, but especially if it is in the same field that you're applying for again, please explain as convincingly as possible that you've thought this through, that it is worthwhile for them to invest another scholarship in you to give you an opportunity to do a course that you might have already done before.
All right.
Yeah.
Another question I have, which I'll quickly ask, what is the procedure? So I have my program selected. How do I need to visit to the university's website, apply there, and then come back to the scholarship? Or how does it work? I just need to know the starting procedure.
So like we mentioned, the scholarships are quite varied. Some of them would cover let's say any master's program that you want to do in Germany or any doctoral program, some of them are very specific to particular fields or particular universities or particular courses. So you need to go to the DAAD website
Mhm.
in one of those links that we've put in the resources at the end. You can either go to the DAAD Germany website, you can also go to the DAAD India website, whichever works for you, and look up what scholarships you might be eligible for. They will mention whether you need to apply to the university first or whether you can directly apply for the scholarship and you proceed from there. The starting point should be the DAAD scholarship database, whether you use the general one or whether you use the India one.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Shaheen, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Shahid, and hi, Vishakha. Thank you for so much for the insightful session. My question is that I would like to have completed my graduation recently, and I would like to apply for the masters for the DAAD scholarship. And my transcript may arrive around November. And I know there is a tight deadline, and you mentioned that it is mandatory. So not sure what to do at this point. And is it possible? Can I write an email to them saying, "Hey, my transfer will be at this time. Can I get a letter from the university? Is it possible?"
Yeah, I guess I can take it. See, there are two things that happens. I guess you might be right now in 7th or 8th semester, right,
How?
Shaheen? I guess
Yes.
right now you might be in 7th or 8th semester. I mean, final year, right?
No, I'm in sixth semester. I've completed my sixth semester.
Okay.
So I have
Here is the
3
thing.
years of bachelor's degree in India.
Perfect.
So
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
I'm done with my exams.
Yeah. So there is a thing that right now you will be if you are done with your final exams, then you can ask for the there is one thing called from the HOD, I mean HOD of your department, you can take all your semester exams results and get sealed and signed from it as of now and submit it in the transcript as of now until your original transcripts arrives. Because the same thing when I was in my eighth semester, so the same thing happened to me. I was not able to get my transcripts, so that's what I did. But you should the thing is they should be able to see your subjects thoroughly what you have studied in your bachelor's. That's the main point of the transcripts. Moreover, you can
Okay.
also
Because
consult with HOD. Yes.
okay, because even the results are not out, and the administrative said it will be out by November.
Exactly. Yeah, I can
So
understand that.
in that
That's the thing.
process, can I just write an email?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Yeah, of course, that's the best thing you can do because year after year, so the things change. So I would suggest that first you mail them. But the second thing is that this is the game with this is the issue with all of the final year students because they are in final year. They don't have their degree as well because degree is necessary required for this admission as well as they don't have transcripts. So best thing is to mail them first. But in the meantime, if the application deadline is nearby, you can do this thing. Go to your respective HOD of your department and get these your marks cards sealed and upload it as of now. And the same you can do for your degree as well. If your degree is not available and the result is not out, so you can just get an reference letter from your HOD that he or she has already attempted the examination and her result is expected to be on this date, and yeah, that will work because the deadline will not be extended for any case. So it's better that you tailor the things on time such that your application will be considered.
Okay, thank you so much. I have another question is that I have completed my first year and the second year of graduation, and then I took a gap year and went to the USA because I got a fully funded scholarship for an exchange program. And then I came back and completed my graduation from online distance learning. And I also
Yeah.
have one failed exam in the second year, and there is a gap, and I got a fully funded scholarship. So, do you think it will work as a favorable to my application or not? Or will it impact?
Over to Vishakha.
Okay, so for any gaps on your CV, they usually recommend that you explain those gaps. So in your letter of motivation or in your CV, if there is a gap, I would strongly recommend that you explain, this is why I took the gap, this is what I did during that period, this is why it was helpful for me to do that, and this is how it sort of, let's say, led to my overall improvement as a student or as a professional. For failed, I mean, for backs or something, that failed exams that you cleared on a reattempt and things like that, I don't think you need to explain it. Whether it works in your favor or not is a very relative thing, because it depends on, who you're competing against and what other applications are received for the scholarship. So I don't think there is a straight answer there. I don't think that just because you have a back, it means that you will definitely not get a scholarship. But at the same time, it completely depends on your competition. So, just apply and try to explain your gap years or any of your backlogs or anything like that in your motivation letter, maybe. And just, yeah, you'll have to hope for the best, I think, in those
Just a
situations.
follow-up question here. So do I need to explain that he had a gap year in between 1 year because I was in the USA, like that?
Yes, gap years, 100% you should explain, because they are expecting that. Because when they see your CV, like I mentioned, it is typically required to be in the reverse chronological order. So they will see that there is a gap year. They will see that between your studies for 1 year, you took a gap, you went to the US, and then you came back and you completed your education through online or distance or whatever means. So these are things that are not immediately understandable to somebody assessing your application, especially because they might not be Indian. Like, I can understand what it means to come,
Yeah.
let's say, finish a course somewhere, go somewhere else, come back and join another university, you're transferring my credits and all of that. But the person on the other end might not know how that works. It might sound a little strange to them as to why you took that path. So as much as possible, you don't want your application to look like it isn't a clear picture of your profile as a student or as a professional. So for all of these things, as much as possible, I would recommend that you explain them somehow. You don't have to explain them in a very defensive way, and I mean, you will learn, I think, a lot of these things when you attend sessions on writing motivation letters and stuff with Project EduAccess. But yeah, you should definitely try to give a cogent explanation for them.
Got
Perfect.
it. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much,
your
Vishakha and
questions.
Shahid. Really
Thank
helpful.
you, Shahid. Anam, you have the floor.
Hello everyone. So my question is DAAD scholarship gives good scholarships for biological sciences, and as you said earlier, they have you can apply directly to a professor or for a structured program, right? So suppose we have to include a research proposal for the application part, and depending upon what forte you are working in, if you're working in like we have different sections in biological sciences itself, right? So we have to write a specific proposal for that part. So would it be better to approach a professor or to apply for a structured program? Like, what do you think from your end?
Um, I can take this. I mean, look, that's an entirely personal decision. You have to sort of see what fits your sort of needs as a student better. The only thing I can maybe clarify now is that not all institutes have structured PhD programs, and not all professors and universities accept individual applications. So, for example, if you have a particular area that you want to work in, and a particular professor who's a leading authority in that field, it's entirely possible that his university doesn't accept individual PhD applications, and they only have a structured program, or vice versa, that they only have individual applications and no structured programs. So yeah, I mean, and I think it entirely depends on what you prefer to study. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. But also the choice may not be up to you depending on what the university's policies on PhD students are.
Yeah, I'll add one point. Yeah, the thing is, it varies from the university to university, as Vishakha said, as well as sometimes they have this requirement that you should fit in. then only you will be able to apply. Of course, you will be able to apply at any point, but the thing is they won't consider your application if you don't meet the specific requirements set by them. So you need to check the university portal, but it varies from university to university. So yeah, check it out, and I hope that helps.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Before we turn to those raised hands, I just had a few questions from the chat. These are all specific to just the German education sector more generally. There are a couple of questions about whether somebody with a 3-year undergraduate degree would be eligible to apply for a master's in German universities. And secondly, there are some questions about the pathways to work
Hello?
in Germany. Sanam, you're going to have to mute yourself for a bit, if that's okay. Thank you. So there are questions about what the pathways to take up a job in Germany once you complete a master's there look like. So any insights into that?
I'll take the first question. Yeah, so for this 3 years course in India, yeah, it's acceptable in most of the universities in the Germany. So yeah, your 3-year course is valid in the Germany for your master's. There is no issue in that. Now coming to the second question about job, the thing is during your course one should be skilled. I mean, what being as a student and a working student here in Germany, what I have understood, what I experienced is that they expect you to do work without any hindrance, and you should not indulge in some things. Hey, I don't know this. They expect you to perfect be in one skill set. For example, there is an job opportunity that had came, and they expect that you need for example MS Office, so you should know thoroughly what it's all about, and they expect you to do work on your own. So at the end of the day, what matters is your skill set. So while completing your degree, and obviously you'll be knowing your what are you interested, so I guess it's better that you be skilled in those things what your interests are into, and then yeah, you will land into a good job. But please don't forget studying German meanwhile. It's very necessary here.
Vishakha, anything you wanted to add?
No, I think Shahid's got it covered.
Great. Just one more question. Do the top German universities like TU Berlin and TU Munich require a GRE score along with an IELTS score? Also, if you don't get the scholarship but get the admission offer, can you defer the offer to the next year?
Some part of it I can answer. So TU Berlin and TU Munich are one of the best universities in Germany, but the GRE is specifically required for AI as well as the computer science programs, and not for the other programs. I have a friend who is studying there in aerospace engineering. He has not done his GRE because it was not required for his course, as well as for civil engineering there. But just for your information, right now TUM has introduced semester fees of 6,000 euros. So that's a major setback to most of the students. Earlier it was free. Now there's a semester fees. Uh, Moreover, back to the point, GRE is specific to the course. If you are into computer science and stuff, yeah, it's necessary that you have that, because throughout the world, there are applicants. It's very competitive to get into those specific courses. And the second part.
I can take that one. Typically, it would depend from university to university what their deferral policy is. My understanding is that they usually don't have a deferral policy. If you receive the admission and you didn't receive a scholarship, you might be required to apply again to the university next year. Unless, of course, there might be some situations in which they allow deferrals, for example, for health-related reasons or for extreme family concerns or things like that. But generally, I don't think requests for deferral are considered favorably.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you both. Sanam Zaman, I think you had your hand raised earlier. Do you want to ask your question now?
I actually got the answer. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Excellent. Then Saurabh, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Shahid answered half of my question. I wanted to ask the second part of my question, and wanted to know your experience of studying in Germany. Like, would you want to like highlight one or two good things that is different from US and UK? And second thing is in terms of inclusivity, being a queer and trans person, for me, like moving to a new city, I do want to know like how is it in terms of inclusivity, because I don't want to like get stuck in a country where I'm getting discriminated or like facing other sorts of violence. So yeah, these two questions.
Uh, so, as per my experience studying in Germany, wonderful. I mean, I would always thank Almighty Allah for giving me this chance that I got my admission here in my it was a dream to study here, and now yeah, I'm living my dream. Alhamdulillah for that. Moreover, I would say that the course is best. I mean, the course is planned in such a way that I mean, there I'm studying space engineering, so there were recent some things that happened in ISS, International Space Station, and recently we had some studies, some class going on, and to be honest, there was the recent syllabus in that. So the professor was discussing that. So yeah, I mean, the best thing is the updated syllabus, not like throwback in home like we had 1970 syllabus and that's not been updated. We're still studying the same stuff. But yeah, here the best thing is we have updated syllabus, and thing is the professor expects you to understand things whenever sometimes like here the examination pattern is completely different. If you when well it'll be your first semester exams and you just prepare the normal way, I'm sure that you're going to fail because the professor expects you to understand the concept and then expects you to answer in your own way. So yeah, that's the complete different thing that here it's not memory based thing education. You are expected to learn things properly, understand them, and then answer them in a proper way. So yeah, my experience is very good here studying here. And second question, I guess yeah, German is a very free country. You get to choose whatever you want to be. I mean, I've never faced anything here. Being since more than 1.5 year here. So it's very good to be here, very peaceful, and I love it.
I'm gonna assume Vishakha agrees.
Uh,
Sorry,
yeah,
did you want to add something? No. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so one thing that really stood out for me is the the they have a good culture of international students, like a lot of German universities, and not just in specific fields, but across the universities. So, and they've been used to it for a long time now, partly thanks to DAAD, which has facilitated so much international movement of students into Germany. So university spaces are generally safe because they're now used to having students who look different and are from different backgrounds. And you'll find people who are like you from all over the world. And I think that's something quite special because at no point do you feel you kind of standing out as a stranger in a land of strangers. On living in Germany, I mean, I think like any other country, it has pockets which are not perfect. And I think you can do a quick Google search and it'll tell you which those pockets are. So you might want to, think about which university you're applying to. It's generally dependent on, what the regional sort of political leaning of the people in that particular city or that particular state in Germany is. But on the whole, it is a good friendly place to study in. Um, I had quite a few classmates when I was studying there who also identified as queer, and they didn't face any issues. So yeah, that's all I can say.
Thank you. I mean, that was really helpful. Yeah.
Excellent. Um, Shahid, some questions for you. You mentioned a block amount. Exactly how much money do we are we
Yeah,
talking about?
till like after 6 days, it's gonna be changed. Till now, it's 934 euros per month, and I guess it's increased up to 50 or 60 euros. So I guess 992 euros per month. So I mean, it's all gonna be 11,000 some hundred euros. It's already on this different websites that I mean, the Germany in Mumbai has already uploaded a post on this that there is going to be increase in this blocked amount because of, like, the things why they are increased. So yeah, there is some increase, but it's around maybe 992 euros per month as of now, as per my information. I might be wrong. So yeah. So overall, it becomes around 11, 12 lakhs. But the best thing is just being blocked for a small time till you arrive here. Once you arrive here, you get monthly stipends from your blocked amount into your account, and you can use it for whatever purpose you want it to be used. And you can send it back to home as well. So there is no issue in that, like it's gonna be freezed until you complete your degree. No, it's gonna just be your safety that you will study without any hindrance, despite whatever the conditions the country has.
Perfect. And Shahid, do you know anything about the DAAD Wise scholarship for engineering
Um,
degrees?
I would just ask the person that is it winter semester they are talking about, or wise? I
No.
mean, I've never heard of wise
Yeah, they
something.
just said
So it might
DAAD,
be winter semester.
WISE.
It might be DAAD winter semester, I guess, because we have SOSC and WISC. So I will take it as WISC. So no, I mean in winter right now, I guess it's already the application time starting from the for the winters. No, winter has already been over now. So right now the application for the summer will be started in very short time. So yeah, I guess winter is already over. So you just need to start for preparations for your summer semester. And most of the applications and most of the courses are taking place in summer semester. So that's a very good opportunity for you to seize your position.
Sorry, if I can just quickly interject on the blocked amount. So I'm just in case somebody missed it. The blocked amount is typically necessary for the international student program that Shahid was talking about. If you have a full DAAD scholarship and you're which is called the DAAD International Scholar Program, it may have different names, but that is the general category. Basically, if your scholarship covers stipend and your scholarship letter will say that you are entitled to a stipend, in that case, you don't need a blocked amount. So for example, because my scholarship covered a monthly stipend, that's proof enough that I will have the funds to pay for my stay there. So in that case, I don't need a blocked amount. The scholarship letter suffices. So it depends on which kind of program you're applying for. Any program with a stipend covered, which like Shahid mentioned is around 930 euros, you don't need a blocked amount.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfection. Someone's asking, does DAAD have any scholarships which don't require the last degree to be obtained within 6 years from the date of application? For example, if someone earned their MA degree more than 10 years ago, can they still apply for any of the DAAD scholarships for this cycle? Are there any restrictions that you're aware of?
I would like to answer this question. Yeah, there is no age restriction, as we mentioned earlier. You can apply anytime, but until or unless there is some specification from the university that you might not have more than this. Because as I have seen in my class, along with my different people, that we have some people they are too old as compared to our ages. It doesn't matter. There is no limit for you to study. So yeah, you can study at any time. But the thing is, in your motivation letter, then you have to accordingly explain them that why there is this much a gap in between my education, like 10 years gap. You have to explain it very thoroughly that why and how you are gonna do the things. Yeah, there is no age restriction.
Yeah, there might be some specific scholarships that will say, okay, your last degree must be within 6 years, but that's not a general requirement. It completely depends on scholarship to scholarship. Most scholarships don't have such requirements. So just check the specific scholarship that you're interested in and see if it has anything. It will clearly state when, if there is such a requirement, it will say that. There is no general assumption that your last degree must have been within 6 years.
Perfect. Okay, let's turn back to some of the raised hands. Mayur, and thank you, Vishakha, for answering some of the questions in the chat. Mayur, you have the floor.
Yeah. Hi everyone. So my question to is with Vishakha. As you have completed your LLM in public international law, but in my case, I just completed my law degree and I have interned with law firms and companies. So my interest is corporate law. So in your opinion, whether doing LLM in corporate law from Germany is better, or I should do LLM from US or UK? What's your opinion? And my second question is, like, what are the career opportunities for the same? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, as somebody who's never studied in the UK or in the US, I can't answer whether it's better or worse. There are definitely programs in Germany for corporate law. I think Bucerius has one of them. That's the only one I can think of right now, unfortunately. But yes, there are definitely programs that are quite good that people often go to. So you can check out whether, the kind of course that they have and the kind of faculty that they have is something that interests you. There's plenty of programs like that cater to somebody with a more corporate law leaning interest. As far as career opportunities in law are concerned, to be completely honest, Germany is most of the work, as you can imagine, is done in German. So there is definitely a preference for people who can speak and write and read German. And that is a definite disadvantage that foreign lawyers face. That is not to say that there are not foreign lawyers working in Germany. There definitely are, including foreign lawyers who don't speak German. But just keep that in mind that they have a preference for German-speaking lawyers, naturally. And also that they have a preference for people who've qualified the German bar, which is a lot more rigorous than the Indian bar exam. So your professional qualifications might not translate there. You will not be admitted to the bar there. As somebody who doesn't speak German or who hasn't studied their bachelor's in German, there is no way to be admitted to the bar in Germany. So that might also play against you because they will prefer someone who is admitted to the bar and can, let's say, appear in court if necessary and things like that, or can officially sign off on documents as a lawyer qualified in Germany. So those things definitely play against you. At the same time, I mean, that is not to say that there aren't people working in corporate law in Germany. So, it really depends on what kind of opportunities are available in the time that you're studying. I just wanted to mention those two things because those are two things that you should be prepared to face as barriers to entry.
So is it better to come back to India after doing my LLM from Germany? As you said.
Sorry. Again, as somebody who didn't come back to India, I don't know if it's better or worse. It completely depends on what kind of opportunities are available to you and what you want to do. I'm also not a corporate lawyer in any sense of the word, so I can definitely not advise on what's better in corporate law and what's not. So yeah, I mean, please try to reach out on maybe LinkedIn or something to Indian lawyers that you see working in Germany because there are a fair amount of them, and they'll probably be able to answer your questions better.
Noted. Thank you.
Perfect. Some more questions from the chat. What if there are delays with receiving the transcript? Does the transcript have to go with the application, or will they give us additional time to submit the transcript later? And secondly, are consolidated mark sheets the same as a transcript?
So the deadlines are clearly mentioned for an application process. So whatever you are going to do, you are going to do it before this. And if there is something they feel like you gave the documents, but they are all long, for example, as I mentioned earlier, that you gave them consolidated marks cards. But once you got admission, then you have to give them. By the time you have to give it to them that the original transcripts are not anymore missing. Yeah, I have got them. So I guess that's it. And the second part was?
Are consolidated mark sheets the same as a transcript?
Yeah. It depends upon, for example, if you are applying from the final semesters of your degree, then yeah, they expect you that it will take some time for you, because they know the different students and different countries, but they have their education things, how they work. So they expect you that, yeah, if it's not there, but still you, however the documents you have, just apply with them. So once you get your original documents, yeah, that will work. So yeah, these things work.
Perfect. I know we've run way over time, but let's maybe quickly get through those three raised hands. Thank you for staying on. Charmaine, you have the floor.
Thank you so much for organizing such an insightful workshop. I've learned so much about the DAAD scholarships here. I know we've answered quite a few questions about the two different kinds of PhD applications that you can make, to individual doctorate projects to specific university professors, as well as structured PhDs. So the way it works in the UK is that even if you're applying to an individual university professor with a tailored proposal according to your interest, so you get in touch with the professor first, and then you apply to a specific university from where you get the acceptance letter, which is required to apply to a scholarship. So earlier you mentioned that once you get in touch with a German university professor and you work out the details with them, and then you can use their acceptance of your proposed PhD proposal to work your way through the DAAD scholarship program. So in the case that I'm applying to a individual university professor, do I not need an acceptance letter from the specific university where they work, or?
So again, it depends on what the university's policies itself are. So for example, in this university where I studied, the professor, I could approach a professor for an individual, on an individual basis, who may accept my research proposal and agree to supervise a PhD by me, in which case the professor would write to the university saying that this is a student I want to accept, and the university would issue a letter saying we hereby acknowledge that this professor has accepted to blah 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 blah. And then my enrollment to the university would happen after I actually went to the university in Germany. But that was my university. There's universities where the you would have to also then fill out a form for the university. And I would suggest that the best thing to do here is to check with the professor themselves as to what the university's requirements are, because it's possible that maybe DAAD doesn't require a letter from the university, but the university itself requires you to have completed that application process. And then again, if a scholarship by the DAAD that's applicable to individual PhD projects, if you're applying to one such scholarship, they will also mention in the application documents whether it is sufficient to have a letter from the professor, or if you also need additional documentation from the university. What I can confirm though is that usually, but not always, usually if a professor in a university which allows these individual program PhD projects, if a professor agrees, usually the university will not say no. So the additional application process isn't quite as rigorous as it might be in some other countries. If they have an individual PhD program that you can undertake, they will typically defer to the professor's decision. So whatever
Thank you so
documentation
much.
you need, you might get it very easily.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Lenovo, you have the floor.
I'm so sorry for that, Lenovo. Actually, I have joined from my from the Zoom apps. Earlier, I was joined from the browser.
That's
So
okay.
sorry for that.
No, don't
So,
worry.
so my question is most like to Shahid actually, because as he's also from engineering background, but it's also okay if Vishakha can answer that question. So, the thing is, there are three things. I have three kind of scholarship. I guess there are, which is DAAD, which is fully funded, so it covers everything, and then there is DAAD stipendium, which is basically 300 per month, per 300 euro per month, and then there is developmental scholarship. So my question is, the developmental scholarship, you need to have 2 years of experience, work experience, basically, correct? So like currently I have 1 year of experience. So is it like before I'm submitting the application, I need to have 2 years of application? Or so my thinking is that when I'll be going to the university in next year, so at that till that time I'll be having 2 years of experience in the IT field basically. And my the program which I'm interested in is somewhat into cognitive science domain. So my question is on that. So
Yeah. To be specific, that as you mentioned that you have 1 year of experience, and the university has clearly mentioned that you need 2 years experience for you. So I guess it but what they are trying to see is that before the starting of the first semester of your degree, you should by then have 2 years of experience. So right now, if you have 1.5 year experience, so yeah, you are good to apply. And because it takes a couple of months for this application process and getting the admission things, so yeah, by that time, I guess you will be able to have 2 years of experience. And yeah, you need to, if it is earlier mentioned that according to the requirements, so yeah, you have to check it with the requirements. Vishakha?
Sorry, yeah, I would actually suggest, okay, so first of all, I want to clarify, the Deutschland Stipendium is not a DAAD scholarship. It is something
yes.
that is given by the university, and it is something that you can only apply for once you're actually admitted to a German university and you're present in the German university as a student. You can apply for these additional funds, but it's not a scholarship administered by the DAAD. It is by the German government, and the administrating institution will be your university. So they will be the one who will invite applications and make decisions. So that's completely separate. The developmental scholarships are just one of the DAAD scholarships, like any other DAAD scholarship, that are given for people who want to study in development related fields. So they're also like any other DAAD scholarship. On the work experience bit, I'm not sure if, because my understanding was different from Shahid's. I understood it, and usually what I've seen is you're required to have the relevant experience at the time of making the application. So in that case, but I don't know if there's something that's changed, because it's been a while since I applied. I would recommend that you write to the contact person for that particular scholarship and clarify this.
Yeah.
So because yeah, at some point I know that it used to be you're required to have the work experience before making the application. I don't know if that's changed. So yeah, I think it would be best that you write to the relevant person, to DAAD India, to or any other specific contact person that's mentioned there, and clarify that.
Yeah, I guess that will work. The resource person is the best guy who can answer this question properly.
Just one more question. So the other question is, so actually I'm confused a bit. I guess you have answered the question many times, but still I still have that question. The thing is, I'm interested in some very niche courses, so like cognitive sciences at some particular university, which are having really good courses and very good faculties there. And there are some courses in visual computing or some area related to AI and AR/VR courses, or IT related courses, basically IT and AI related courses. So like my question is, so are the, if suppose I am first I have to get selected for DAAD, and then only I'll be getting selected for, or after that I have to make application to the university. Out of like 4 or 5 university, I can be selected, suppose any university for any course. So that's how it works, or like how it will be working. So I'll be starting with DAAD, and like I'm just confused in that. So how will it go?
Vishakha.
Um,
Yeah,
so- no worries.
And
You
the other thing is, so will the courses be part of that or not? So that is what my actual question is. So if the specific degree for which I'm applying, MSc course at some particular university, so should be part of that or something like that.
So just to clarify, when you go on the scholarship database, you will see a list of scholarships and you will be able to filter them through which scholarships you are eligible for, which scholarships can be given to somebody who wants to study in the fields that you're interested in studying in. So you'll be able to filter them through that. And some of those scholarships are general scholarships. So you might be able to apply for them no matter which university you want to study in. Some of those scholarships are available only for specific universities, in which case the scholarship guidelines will tell you that this particular scholarship is only available if you want to study these particular programs in these universities. So you need to first check the scholarship page to figure out if it's a general scholarship or it has limitations on which programs and which universities it is applicable for. As for applying for the universities, usually the processes are independent. So applying for a DAAD scholarship is independent from applying for the university. You will have to make a separate application. But for example, let's say in my case, the scholarship that I applied for was a specific scholarship. It was a scholarship that was only available to do masters in law in 2 universities. In that kind of scholarship, what DAAD will usually do is not require you to make a separate application to the university. The moment you are granted the scholarship, it is assumed that you're also admitted to the university. But all of this entirely depends on which scholarship you're applying for and what the guidelines for that particular scholarship say. If there's a particular university that you're interested in and you think that one of DAAD's scholarship will cover that university, maybe it's a general scholarship that doesn't say, which university it's available for, I would recommend also contacting the university to figure out if you need to make an additional application before or after. But otherwise, going through the scholarship guidelines will usually make it clear what you need to do and which applications you need to make.
I guess that answers my question. So last, just one point I have, I don't think it is a question. So I have heard and I have read in many posts on Reddit and Quora that there are usually less scholarship for computer science and AI related courses as they are actually very much in demand. So is it the case? I guess Shahid can answer that question. So like general computer sciences courses, they have less scholarship on that platform.
As we mentioned earlier, that there are 2 scholarships. One is this fully funded, and one is the for which you need to have this blocked amount. So which one you are talking about specifically?
So actually, I'm talking about DAAD, the fully funded one, fully funded scholarships.
To be honest, I don't have that much of information for the computer science in that. I have a good hold on this the scholarship with the blocked amount. I have good information about that on it. So I would suggest that you go to the portal and check it out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shahid. Thank you, Vishakha. And thank you, guys.
So, Lenovo, your question, the first question is answered in the chat now. So please do check. And let's turn to our final raised hand, Aksa.
So I know this question might be on a general side, but all I wanted to ask is nowadays there's quite a rise in AI generated content or plagiarism. So do we have to check our motivation letter and other application documents for the same? As sometimes even our own original content might get flagged for the same. So, and how serious are the DAAD scholarship committees for this?
Yeah, I can take this one. So I don't think, as long as you are 100% sure that your content is original, I don't think you have to run it through a plagiarism software. They, however, do take plagiarism very, very seriously. And that's something that you will find even if you study in Germany. It is absolutely frowned on. And the requirements for, let's say, what amount of content can be plagiarized content in your work is very, very strictly imposed. So I would absolutely, like, if you're 100% sure that your work is original, then, I mean, there is no need to run anything through a plagiarism software, because if it is, then it's not going to show up as plagiarized, no matter how much AI proliferates. But yes, in general, they are very, very strict about plagiarism in applications, whether you're a student there, at all stages. So you can expect that your application will be run through a plagiarism software by them, even if you don't do it.
Yeah. So moreover,
So
I would
that
like to, I would
so
like to
that
add a
might
point.
sorry
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, you go ahead. Then I'll add at
So
the
to
end.
so to be on the safer side, should I actually get a check? Because my professors recommended this for me, that you should get a check because you don't want to be just get flagged for the same and get not accepted by the university.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to discuss earlier. The thing is, motivation letter is some specific your personal thing, like whatever the things that you have done, co-curricular activities as well as the studies. Obviously, you will start from the scratch first. You can take somebody's reference, how they have started their LOM and how they have reached to the end. So always the best thing is to use the reference only for the reference purpose and not copy their things, because that's the enter point. If you use your own whatever the things and whatever the achievements you have done and write it properly in your LOM, then of course I'm sure that you don't have to go through the plagiarism, because you know that you don't have copied from any other statements. But yeah, you should expect that it will go through a plagiarism check here in the university, because they know they know these things very well. They know how to check the things. So it's always best to be honest with your LOM. Just an
I just
update,
saw
Gayatri.
sorry.
Yeah, can you just put our LinkedIn or something here, because there are a lot of messages I'm getting that they need some questions and queries. So is that, or I can put that.
I
You can
found yours,
put for every.
so I'll just put your LinkedIn here.
Yeah, Vishakha, you were saying something.
Yeah, sorry. Just there was a related question about how sometimes original content can show up as plagiarized. Usually plagiarisms, they will never have a requirement of 100% plagiarism free. There is a cutoff, like there is an allowance made, because they also recognize that sometimes some content shows up as plagiarized even though it's not. So it's usually around 10 to 15%. I mean, I don't want to give an actual number, but for example, in my university, it was up to 10% content. If the plagiarism report shows 10% plagiarism, it's fine. Don't go by that number, please. Like, there is no such set number. But yes, usually they will make an allowance because they recognize that sometimes that might happen. That is not a cause to worry. The only cause to worry is, of course, if any content is actually plagiarized, and then it'll show up.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that brings us to the close of the raised hands. But Vishakha, thanks for getting through most of the questions that have come in the chat. There was one question which I no longer can locate, but essentially what they were asking was, when it comes to PhDs, if you're in touch with a supervisor, then how do you establish a connection between the supervisor, the institute, your DAAD application? What happens there? Any insights into all of that?
Yeah, so I think we touched upon this a little bit. What I would recommend so I'm assuming this is about individual PhD projects and not a structured program. And my recommendation in that case would be to first and foremost reach out to the professor that you are interested in working with, because that will have to be the first line of approval that you need to get. Unless the professor is willing and interested in supervising your project, nothing is going to go forward. So write to them. They will usually be also able to tell you what exactly you need to do to get the ball rolling. Typically, how it would work is you would write to the professor saying, this is what I'm interested in doing. They might ask you for some further documentation or things like that. Sometimes also professors from German universities will put out calls inviting PhD applications. So you can also keep an eye out for that if a particular professor you're interested in is currently accepting PhD applications. Or you can write to them asking if they are currently accepting PhD applications, in which case, depending on what they say, you might be able to send your proposal and your documents to them. If they are interested in it, they will also be able to guide you through what needs to be done at the university level in their institute, because they are the people who will know that the best. And from DAAD side, when you comb through the scholarships, whatever scholarships are applicable for individual PhD projects, they will say what documents you need to submit. So what you will definitely need is a letter of approval from the professor himself or herself for themselves, saying that they are willing to supervise you. What you might also need is a confirmation from the university, but I would suggest checking the scholarship page for that. And in that case, you can ask the professor for how to go about getting that documentation from the university. They'll be able to help you. I don't know, Shahid, if you want to add anything.
That's it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vishakha and Shahid, for taking time for this. I know it's been quite a lot of time, far more than what we originally imagined. But thank you for staying and patiently taking all those questions. And thank you to all the participants as well. And of course, our thanks also go to Yes India for collaborating with us on this workshop. I just want to remind everyone that this session has been recorded and the recording will be made available on Project EduAccess's YouTube channel. I've dropped a link to our YouTube channel here in the chat, so please subscribe, I guess. Please also follow our content on Instagram, only because most of our workshops, before organizing them, we announce them on Instagram, and there's also a wealth of other resources that you can get access through via our Instagram. So please, if you aren't already, do give us a follow there so you remain updated about all the activities that are happening here on the EduAccess end. Great. Thanks for joining, everyone. And sorry, Vishakha. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, because I was asked some queries directly that I couldn't answer, but also because Shahid just reminded me, I'm gonna put my LinkedIn in chat as well. So anybody who wants to reach out, and if I wasn't able to get through your direct questions, please feel free to write to me there, and I'll try to respond as soon as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Like we are already running out of time, and we have already given our LinkedIn contacts. So yeah, we'll be happy to assist with any information. Cheers.
Perfect. That is super kind of both of you. So thank you again. Great. See you, all of you, at our next session. We have another workshop happening this week. You will hear more about it via our Instagram. So see you then. Bye, everyone. Thank you again, Vishakha and Shahid.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.